What is up, my peepholes? This is your guy, Cly, and welcome back to Budget Tubing. Now today, I'm going to be taking a look at this little guy. This is the FiFine K669 USB condenser microphone. This is a cardioid condenser microphone with a resolution of 48 kilohertz at 16 bits, and it will cost you around $28 to $30 depending on which color you get. I went with the rose red model, not just because it's the cheaper of the two, with the $30 model being all black, but because pretty much every microphone that I'm going to be covering in this series is going to be all black, or at least mostly black, and I wanted a splash of something else. Now, as for the design of the microphone, I gotta say I really dig it. I am loving the fact that it is completely round. It's got a really nice profile, and the solid metal construction adds a nice bit of heft. Also, I gotta say it's got hands down one of my top 3 features on a microphone, and that is on-device gain control. Now, as for how you're going to be mounting this microphone on either a hard mount or a shock mount, I would definitely suggest steering clear of any of the grippy style mounts, simply because this dial for your on-device gain control is going to cause issues. But fortunately, FiFine did make the decision to add threading to this microphone, which you can see at the base here. In fact, let me bring it in closer to the camera. This is threaded at M22X1, just like a lot of the other mics I've covered, like the AT2020, the Q9, and the BM800. And this time it is external threads, just like the AT2020. Which means you can use the hard mount that came with said microphone or the one that is included with this mic that I'll show you in a second. I should also point out that it does seem like this mic, if you can see it right here, is using a 14mm condenser capsule, which is the same size used in the BM800, AT2020, Blue Snowball, Blue Yeti, and a whole heck of a lot of others in this price range and beyond. And that's not a bad thing. I should also point out that the higher priced models that I just rattled off there claim to have a custom attenuated capsule, so you're probably not going to get the exact same sound profile despite using a similarly sized capsule. And the final design feature I want to talk about before moving on to the accessories is the fact that your USB cable is actually integrated. And this is actually the only real flaw to me, because if something happens to your USB cable, you kind of have to either crack it open and solder a new one in place, which, not gonna lie, I'd rather not open it up due to not wanting to scratch the anodized coating or whatever they have on the outside, or get a new microphone. So, I hate to give it a bad point there, but that is the one design feature that I do not like. Also, it does make storing this mic a little bit of a pain, because despite having a nice profile, meaning that it's compatible with off-the-shelf mic bags, you gotta do something about covering the plug on the USB cable, otherwise you run the risk of scratching your mic. Now let me change up the camera just a little bit so that we can talk about the included accessories. Before I go any further, there is one little piece of FiFine news that I noticed this morning while prepping for this shot, and that is that the FiFine K052 gooseneck microphone that I covered in a previous video, which has on-device gain control and a mute function, just had a price drop. It is no longer $28, it is $22. So I'm gonna go ahead and link my review of the K052 right now as a card, and drop a link down in the description so you can check it out if that has piqued your interest. Now, as for what we actually changed up this shot for, let's talk about the accessories. Included with your K669 are a tripod, which I should add has solid metal legs, which is not something you typically see in some of the tripods included with lower cost microphones, as well as a hard mount, which interestingly enough comes in 2 pieces, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But first I should note that both the hard mount and the tripod are threaded at 5/8 of an inch, which is a standard microphone threading. In fact, if you wanted to, you can pop a Blue Snowball right onto this microphone stand. Now, as for the hard mount, it does seem to draw inspiration from M22X1 threaded mounts such as this, but it goes about it in a slightly cheaper and, in my opinion, kind of innovative fashion. Let me go ahead and thread the hard mount onto this tripod really quick. There we go. And bring it into the shot, because honestly, the vast majority of the construction of this hard mount is actually plastic, which goes a long way in avoiding scratching the coating on the microphone, so I'm not going to say that that's a bad thing. As for the nut that's included, this is all metal, and based on my research, this might be a recolored and repurposed nut for either a drive shaft or a steering shaft. I can't remember which. But the fact that it's a separate part actually gets my DIY wheels turning, because I want to make a shock mount for mics like this with on-device gain control that won't block the knob or damage the knob if you have to slide it in. So there might be something involving either this specific nut or something similar in the future. Now, as for how you mount up the microphone, that is a little bit involved. Let me go ahead and pull my cable back up here. And all you've got to do is first, make sure you've got this in the right position, because there is a wider hole and a narrower hole. You want the wider section to be facing the microphone. So you're going to thread your USB cable in just like this, bring it all the way down. I said bring it all the way down. This is going to take a second. There we go. And your mic will sit on just like that. In order to secure it, you once again need to grab your USB cable end, thread it through the part of the nut that has the protruding piece. This is going to be facing your mic stand, and do just like this. And bring it all the way around. Make sure not to drop the nut just like I did. There we go. And last but not least, you're going to want to have the protruding portion of the nut sitting inside the hole. In fact, that's what the protruding part is for. It's to make sure things sit center. There we go. Bring it in like that. Try to do this through my viewfinder, which is not exactly simple, and lock it in place. That's all there is to it. Go ahead and set the mic stand up. I am clumsy through a viewfinder, I can tell you that much. And you're good to go. Let me center this mic, zoom out a little bit, and then we can move on to the testing of the pickup pattern. All right, I've got the K669 hooked into my laptop, the good old speaker stick hooked up to my phone, and a song selected. Let's go ahead and flash up the cardioid graphic and get things started, shall we? Alright, based on the waveform I saw during that test, this is definitely a properly calibrated cardioid microphone. It's going to do an amazing job blocking out the audio that you could possibly be picking up behind your mic. And that's great for content creators of all types, be you Let's Players, podcasters, vloggers, what have you. Now for the final step, let's move over to my video capture on my PC and run a couple of audio tests, shall we? Alright, welcome to Audacity, and as per usual, the only thing I'm going to be doing to this audio is adjusting the volume for easy listening. Now, as of right now, I've got my digital gain set to 52%, mainly because that's where it defaults, and my on-device gain set to 50%. I'm sitting about 4 inches away from the microphone to take advantage of the proximity effect, and as you can see over here, I'm coming in at around -12 to -6 decibels. Like I said, I'm going to make it so it doesn't blow out your eardrums. Now, if I move back to about a foot away, which is a more normal speaking distance, there is a little bit of a drop-off in the audio you're getting. However, if I reach over and adjust the gain manually, apologies, I've got to move the pop filter to do this, and you might hear me touching the mic. There we go. Things normalize back out to around -12 to -6, so that's great. And like I said earlier, I'm only using about half of the digital gains, so this mic is pretty friggin' flexible in that respect. Now let's hop over to Fritcher so we can take a look at the frequency response. Welcome to Fritcher. Now I'm still sitting about a foot away from the microphone so that I can avoid coloring the signal with the proximity effect, and hopefully that's going to give us a good idea on the frequency response of this mic. Now, just like last time, I'm not going to be putting the frequency response graph onto the screen, mainly because, just like last time, the manufacturer failed to include one in the manual. Fortunately, they did mention that this mic is supposedly responsive between 20 and 20,000 hertz, and based on everything I'm seeing here, I'm going to say they're right. Now, this isn't the flattest response pattern that I've seen. It's actually a little heavier in the bass department than in the treble, as you can see by the drop-off at about, let's see, around the 3,000 hertz range is where it really starts to drop off. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because, as I've mentioned before, as you go up, fewer and fewer people are going to be able to hear it thanks to just age-related hearing loss. I know mine cuts off at about the 18 kilohertz range. However, a little bit of a warmer tone, which that's what you get with a little bit more bass, is what I go for, so this mic is actually pretty well suited for me, especially since I've gotten some pretty good responses in the 50 to 80 hertz range on the occasional outtake where I may or may not have had to burp, and a few other test tones. Now, as for my opinion on this microphone, I'm going to have to say that for $30 or $28 in my case, since I got the rose red / I want to say it's magenta version of the microphone, it's definitely worth the money. Yes, I'm not the biggest fan of the integrated USB cable, thanks to if it fails, you're going to either need a new mic or open it up and learn how to solder, and it does make storage a little bit of a hassle when you have to hunt down a cover for the USB plug to protect the finish of the mic. But I'm not gonna lie, I kinda like the sound of this more than the Blue Snowball. And don't worry, there will be a versus video of those two coming in the near future, though I will just be using a single pattern on the Snowball so that it's more fair. So it's more going to be the FiFine K669 versus the Blue Snowball Ice. But yeah, that's really all I've got to say. Hopefully this prattling on has allowed you to get more audio to work with so that you can see if this mic is something that you would like for your podcast or other form of content creation. Anyway, I've got a huge stack of mics to work my way through, so until next time, this is your guy Cly, signing off.